All right, we're going to finish up our notes for experimental probability. We've discussed simple events and compound events in class, and then we're going to go on to making predictions. Making a prediction. A prediction is a reasonable expectation. Oh, learn how to spell this, darling. E-X-P-E-C-T-A-T-I-O-N. Or guess made by using a current statistic. Still can't spell. There we go. I want you to use the 3 P's when we're making predictions. In order to make a prediction, please make sure the word prediction is in all caps. You must use probability to solve a proportion. The 3 P's are prediction, probability, and proportion. Okay? Some key words that I want you to make note of as well. Prediction, key words. What would you predict? ... What can be expected? And what would you expect? Same thing here, just one word different. And with that being said, at any rate, they want you to make a proportion box. Or if they give you a percent, you may convert it to a decimal, just like we did with our money unit or our proportionality unit with percent change and percent error. You may convert it to a decimal. Then it's always going to be the same operation, multiply. Convert to a decimal, then multiply. And this is a big OR. You can do either or, the proportion box or the conversion and then multiplication. But you need to be familiar with what you're converting and why you're converting it and what to multiply by. So you have to be careful. Let's look at example 5. It says the experimental probability that it will rain on any given day in Key West, Florida is about 30%. That's important. Put a box around it. Out of 365 days, about how many days can residents and visitors predict rain? This word out of is indicative of a fraction. I am making my proportion box, and I have my 30%. Percent is out of what number? What's all the percent? How many pennies are in a dollar? 100. So then you can put 30 over 100. And then out of 365, that means some number goes here. I'm going to use X because I do not know what that number is. Then I'll put 365 down there. Now this is one way to solve this problem. And in order to solve a proportion, I can also simplify this by crossing out the zeros. I now have 3/10. I can still cross multiply and divide, which gives me 365 times 3 divided by 10. 365 times 3 is 1,095. Whoopsies. Now divide that by 10. $109.5. 109.5 days. Now, the other way to have solved this problem is to take your percent, convert it into a decimal, and then multiply it by 365. Here's what that looks like. I'm just going on the back. Example 5, I believe. 30% as a decimal is 0.3 times 365. I don't have to divide by 100 on this one. 365 times 0.3. 3 times 5 is 15. 3 times 6 is 18 plus 1 is 19. 3 times 3 is 9 plus 1 is 10. Move your decimal one place to the left. 109.5 days. Same answer, different method. Whatever works for you, do it. Example 6. An airline's daily flight data showed a 2% probability that it was delayed. If this airline has 1,250 flights in a month, how many of these flights would you expect to be delayed? So I need to take out what's important. 2% probability, 1,250 flights. How many would you expect? That means I need to make a proportion box. Or I can convert my percent to a decimal and then multiply. So here I'm going to do both ways. 2 out of 100 equals X out of 1,250. So I can cross multiply 2 times 1,250 and then divide by 100. Cross multiply and divide. 2 times 1,250 divided by 100. What is 2 times 1,250? Try again. 2 times 1,250. 1,250. 1,250 times 2. 2,500. Perfect. Divided by 100. I can cross out these zeros on the end, and I'm left with 25 flights. The other way to have done that is convert 2% to a decimal and then multiply by 1,250. Example 6, 2% to a decimal is 0.02 times 1,250. 1,250.02 multiply 0.052. 1, 2 times to the left. 25 flights Okay. Last two. One of the baseball players has a .200,000 or 20% batting average. Out of 50 times at bat, about how many times would you expect the player to make a hit? The words would you expect, and out of 50 times means you are going to use the 3 P's. You're making a prediction and you're using probability to solve a proportion. In your proportion, if you put this 200 in there, you need to put 1,000 below it because this is the tenths, hundredths, and thousandths place. I don't want to use all of those numbers. Those zeros are optional. Chop them off. What new decimal do you have? 2/10. 2 out of 10. And then it says out of 50 times. X out of 50. Cross multiply, then divide. This should be easy. Times 2. You can simplify before you finish. Divided by 10. 50 divided by 10 leaves me with 5. Times 2 is 10 hits at bat. Lastly, last year, Jake missed the bus 1 out of every 30 school days. That right there is the ratio. Approximately how many days did he miss last year if there are 182 days in the school year? I don't have a percent here, so I must use a proportion. They're giving me one ratio, which is 1 out of every 30. 1 out of every 30. These are my missed days. These are my school days. How many days did he miss? About how many did he miss last year if there are 182 days in the school year? Get ready to cross multiply and divide. 182 school days, 30 days that he goes to school, 1 he missed them, or 1 which he missed. Cross multiply, divide. 182 times 1 is just 182 divided by 30. What do you get with 182 divided by 30? Can you calculate? .06, and the 6 repeats. This is approximate, so please make a squiggly equal sign. And I can say about 6 days. Either answer is correct. This one's just a little more accurate. Okay, these are your notes for today.